Hey, how's it going? Rob here. In this video, I want to share with you a load of products that I genuinely believe will make your bike life easier and more enjoyable. All these things are things that I have personally bought and would recommend, and you might not use them that often, but when you do, you'll be glad you got it. Now, first up is this. It is a digital tire pressure gauge from a company called, this one's from Toe Peak. There's loads of them that you can get, but I've been using this one for years. It is really useful when you're setting up tire pressures and trying to get a consistent pressure across different bikes you might have. But not only that, it's got a Schrader and a Presta valve. So it actually works on forks and shocks for pressure there. Now, you do get pressure gauges on most of the pumps, but in my experience, most of the cheap ones aren't that accurate, or they start off accurate and they kind of just after a few months of use, the gauges on them become really unreliable. Now, this will tell you the exact pressure of your tires in PSI or the other one, which is like bar. And what I really like about it is consistent all the time. So if I want 25 PSI in my tires, I can get 25 PSI exactly on all my bikes that I use. But also what I really like about it is when I'm pumping up a tire and I'm sealing it for the very first time, I'll usually like pump it up to about 40 PSI to get a really nice seal. Also helps stretch the tire a little bit to change the profile ever so slightly. And the next day, I let it down to my pressure that I want. And I like this thing that it's got called tune. So when it's on tune, what it will do is it will say the exact pressure that they're currently on. So let's say I've just made it tubeless and it's 40 PSI. I press this tune button and what happens is it will start flashing and it will show me the live pressure, and I can let air out and I can see it going down and down and down. So I can actually get this to the exact pressure that I want with this device. So it's super useful. They're not massively expensive, but it's definitely worth having something like this in your toolbox. All right, next up, have you ever had a chain and you've been faffing around trying to find the quick link and by hand trying to undo that quick link? I've had to do it loads. And it's so fiddly, isn't it? They say it's a quick link and you can easily remove. Here you go, it's just there, the quick link. But in my experience, hurts your hands, you're faffing around, you're trying to kind of split it and you're like, why is this not working? Just get one of these. This is from KMC. It's a chain quick link splitter. And once you've used one of these, you'll never want to go back to just using your hands or some other weird makeshift tool to split the chain. This just works all the time. Now, this is not something that you're going to be busting out all the time on the trail side, but this is the type of thing that if you're trying to remove the chain for cleaning your drivetrain or fitting a new cassette or rear derailleur or chainring or whatever it might be, take the chain off, it makes everything so much easier. And this is the easiest tool you'll ever use. Find the quick link, pop it in, and there you go. How much easier is that than twisting it around and trying to squeeze it together and yeah, getting bleeding fingers. This one is by KMC, who make chains as well. But again, this is not that expensive. It will make your bike life that much easier. All right, next up, I'm going to show you this. This here, I'll bring it over. When you're trying to wash your bike, you might try and lean it up against the wall, balance it on something, or turn it upside down even. Get one of these. This is one of those shop stands. You know when you go in and you see them wheeled in, the back wheel is put in there. This is light, it folds up. This comes off so I can fold it down completely. It's pretty cheap. You slide your back wheel in and you can wash your bike and you can get access to both sides of the bike. Again, I don't really see many people use these kind of bike stands, but in my experience, you can walk around the bike when you're washing it and you can get both sides. You don't have to pick it up or lean it against something. So you just pop your back wheel straight in there, boom. E-bike is supported fully with this, and you clean your bike with a hose or spray or whatever. And this usually sits in the back of my van. and I'll show you the next product as well that I use this with. But these aren't that expensive. They don't take up too much space because you can fold them down, and the bike is totally supported. And even if you're doing some light maintenance on the bike, like, I don't know, changing the brakes or the brake pads, or adjusting the bar, whatever, this will get your bike to be fully supported, and it is stable. You can see I've had mine for ages. I've lost that rubber plug there. It's probably in my van somewhere, but it works totally fine without it. Use this all the time for cleaning the bike. Decent product. Again, one that you might not have thought about, but will make your bike life easier. Okay, next up is this. It is from Works, and it's called the Airshot, and it is a portable washer. There's a few things that I really like about this. First off is the size. I mean, that essentially is it. That's it. It's tiny. It comes with a hose, and with this hose, what you can do is you can use any water source. So you can even get an adapter, so you can plug in like a bottle of water into the bottom, a 2-litre bottle of water into the bottom of the pressure washer, or you can use any water source with this. You can stick it in a stream, pond, a lake, puddle. I use one of those kind of big jerry cans that you can get from Screwfix or B&Q. And then it comes with the lance that plugs into there. It's really straightforward. And the reason I like this, there's quite a few reasons actually. First of all, it's really small, like that's it, it's tiny. It's got a little battery that comes off and is totally rechargeable. I honestly don't really get these pressure washers for bikes that stay at home, because I just use the garden tap. Honestly, they're more than adequate when you put one of those kind of hose lock attachments on the end. Yeah, powered ones where you have to plug in don't really make that much sense to me. But this, because you can take it to the trail, this is a game changer, because once your bike is muddy, dusty, full of crap, bust this out with that and that. And that is your portable washing system. Just put your water source, little jerry can, and using that stand I spoke about earlier, you can get your bike 95% clean, maybe more than that, just with this. And in my experience, this battery here can do like 2, maybe 3 washes just with that. And you can get spares, so you know, you can just leave it in the van or the car and just charge it once every couple of rides or so. But I think it's bloody brilliant. I think it's pretty competitively priced. I bought this on Amazon. They do come on offer every now and again. I think I paid £110 for this one, but it's really good. Like, I would totally recommend this, and I've seen a few of my mates get this one as well, and yeah, it just works really well. So totally recommended. This is going to make your bike life that much easier. All right, next up, how many times have you tried to make something tubeless and failed miserably and just ended up with tubeless sealant everywhere, hurting hands because you've been fighting to get the tyre on in the first place? You're knackered because you've been pumping away for like 35 minutes trying to seal it and it hasn't worked. This is the solution to those problems by a company called Airshot. It's essentially just compressed air. You use your pump. It's got a regular tyre valve just on the top here. And you just pop this on the tyre, on the valve, with the valve core removed, and I'll show you what I use for that in a sec. And release this, and that is what you need to inflate those impossible tubeless conversions. Airshot, 40 quid, something like that. Makes your bike life that much easier. Now, to inflate that, I used a decent quality pump. I've bought so many cheap ones, 15 quid ones, that just fail after a little time. Now, what I like about this one's by Specialized. There's other really good ones out there as well, but the chamber holds loads of air. So each pump, you're putting loads of air into the tyre. It's sturdy, doesn't fall about. It's got little foot stands here with sandpaper or grip tape on. like an old skateboard. And every time you use this, you're just reminded like how much better this is than a cheap one. And I know I sound like some kind of product salesman here, but trust me, buy cheap, buy twice with bike pumps. This just does seal most tyres and most tubeless conversions that I've done. The quality is really decent, it's pretty high volume, and really importantly, the gauge on it is really accurate. So you know that tyre pressure gauge I showed you earlier, when I compare the two, they're very, very similar, pretty much identical. This was about £50, £55 when I bought it. I managed to get it in the sale. But this makes a world of difference when you're trying to inflate stuff. It just makes it easier. And yeah, it's just another little product that will make your bike life a little bit easier. So invest in a decent track pump. Don't get any of these cheap ones. They're more hassle than it's worth. Unless you really are on a budget, I'd spend that little bit more and get a decent quality track pump like this one. Next up, this. It's one of the cheapest, like, good products that you can buy. It's a valve core remover. You know when you're trying to remove the press to valve and you're like, initially you try your fingers and you try so hard and nothing happens other than your skin's been removed from the tips of your fingers. And then you go and get like a pair of pliers and you kind of damage the end of the valve because you've like pinched it in the wrong place. Just get one of these. This makes that job of removing the valve core so much easier. And when you're making a tyre tubeless, a lot of the sealants, you use a tube and put the sealant straight into the tyre rather than tipping into the tyre. You just go through the actual valve. You need to remove the valve core. And this was like, I think I bought this one from eBay and it was like £8, maybe not even that. You can get some branded ones. This is by a company called Risk RL301. You don't need this one. They all do the same kind of job. This is that kind of tool that I get really annoyed if I can't find. So I normally keep it in the top of my toolbox, like, you know, those kind of flaps that you have on the lid. And I use this really often. It's just a cheap little tool that every bike owner should have in their toolbox. Little valve core remover. Beautiful. Right. If you rode motorbikes previously, or you still do, you might have used this. It's called ACF 50. Basically, it's an anti-corrosion spray. It's a bit like WD-40, but better. It doesn't get rinsed off unless you fully degrease something. I use this and I spray it onto a cloth, or I sometimes spray it into the lid. And it's really useful on electrical contacts and those areas of the motor that are quite prone to water, but it creates a thin kind of film on these components and these areas, and it essentially resists any kind of corrosion or pitting or anything that might cause an issue with water and kind of rust and electrical contamination. I think it was originally developed for military use, and they used to put it on like helicopter blades to stop them corroding. So it should be pretty good for bike stuff. But it's actually recognised by some brands and some motor manufacturers as being acceptable to use on their components. And it's about 15 quid a can, and it will last you ages because on a bike, you don't really use that much. On my motorbikes, I used to spray it all in the engine bay and, you know, on all the plugs and the electrical stuff. And it's really good. If you are going to apply it, just be sensible, don't put it on. You don't need to cake it on and use it on all the parts, just a little bit goes a long way. ACF 50 will help protect your bike from corroding and stop that dreaded water ingress that can affect lots of e-bikes. Decent. Makes your bike life easier. All right, next up, if you're going to do some serious stuff on your bike, there's a couple of options that you can get. A decent workshop stand. Now, I've bought, you know, the cheap ones you can get in like Aldi. Every year or every 6 months, they do these ones for 30, 35 quid. And they're pretty good. They're not really serious if you want to start turning your bike upside down and flipping it around, because they don't really support the weight that well in my experience of using those. This one cost me a fair bit of money. I bought this about 18 months ago. It's the Park Tool PRS 25. What I really like about this is it's good for e-bikes. It's got this kind of locking jaw mechanism on here, and it's super solid and super secure. What I like about it is you can adjust the angle that you're holding the bike up. So if you want to just work on like the underside or the front side, you can do that by adjusting where it's gripped. So your kind of bike rotates around and that locks off. And it's just really well built. I did actually have a problem with this. The bottom part cracked, and I contacted Park Tool and they sent me through the following week a spare part from America without any quibble. And you know, I thought that was pretty decent. It's height adjustable, so you can have your bike lower, higher. And what I like about it is it's got this little tool tray just towards the bottom, so you can put Allen keys, tools, screws, those kind of things. This is one of the most expensive things in this list, and Park Tool do a few different versions. You don't need to go for this PRS 25, but it works superbly well for me. And if you're serious about bike work, get a decent quality workshop stand. The cheap ones are okay. Again, it's one of those that if you're just doing some washing and some basic stuff, the cheap one will work. But if you want to do some serious stuff and want it to last for ages with a decent warranty, something like this Park Tool is definitely something I'd recommend. Right, next, this. It's called Crank Stick. You might be thinking, what the hell is that? If you try to put lube on a chain, you can't rotate the chain rim backwards because of the gearing in the motor. The cranks will spin, but the chain just stays put. This goes in between the chain ring and the crank, and it kind of wedges it in, so you can rotate the chain backwards and you can lube the chain with your bike just standing in the same position. Instead of you kind of like rotating it around the garden or picking it up and trying to put lube on that way, this will make your job so much easier. You don't have to use this, you can use a Allen key, and I've done that in the past, but I think that this is a neat little tool. It's about £10 or something. This is the second one I've had because I lost the first one, but it just makes lubing your chain a little bit easier. This is, yeah, Crank Stick, just works. And finally, this could be the most requested product on my channel. In all of my videos that I do with bike reviews, this is the thing that we use to stand the bike up. And I see so many comments saying, Rob, what is that pedal stand you're using? Well, it's one of these, and it is the most simple thing. It's a telescopic fishing rod stand. And we use this to stand the bike up. So when you're putting it on grass or uneven terrain, you can adjust it, tighten it up, stand the bike up, pedals level, one of the pedals goes in there, and that goes in the ground, and it stands the bike up. So if you want to create some Insta-banger photos, where you want to make some videos of your bike and not use an ugly stick to prop the bike up, get one of these. This was like $7.99. Just search on Amazon or eBay for a fishing rod rest or bank stand or something. And this is a telescopic one, yeah, maybe £7 or £8. And this is one of these magic sticks that you can use to stand your bike up, get some banging looking photos. You can even edit it out if you use Photoshop afterwards and the bike looks like it's floating. This is cool, and we take it everywhere. And if you are wondering why you found one of these in the middle of a forest, it's not people fishing, it's because I've probably left it there. So a little fun fact, me and John filmed a bike release like a year ago, and we went back to that very same spot and found one of these that we'd left there the year before. So try and remember to pick it up. Don't leave it there like I did, but this is super useful. By the way, all of this stuff is stuff that I've personally purchased. So I've not been gifted it, or it's not been asked to be included. It's genuinely stuff that I recommend that you go and buy. And you might not use it all, like the chain thing you might not use for like 2 months, but when you do need to remove that chain, it's just, the job is much, much simpler. And most of them are pretty cheap. Most of them are well under 50 quid. So I'll put a link in the description for everything. And let me know if I've missed anything that you think is super essential. Put it down below and that will help other people out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for weekly e-bike videos and I'll catch you all soon.